Hello and welcome once again to the Valley Mills Christian Church podcast. My name is Joe McNeil. I'm the spiritual growth coordinator here.
I'm Ezra Davis, the student minister here.
And I'm Mark Stair, the worship arts minister.
Are you here, though?
And I'm here.
Present.
Present.
And can I just say that we've missed you. We've all missed you so terribly that it hurts. But now that pain
Yeah, it's been like a month or something.
It hurts
something
so
like
good.
Yeah. So hopefully you've missed us too, but in a good way. So the current sermon series here at Valley Mills is Putting God First. And hopefully you've been listening to that, attending church here or watching by a live stream. If you have not, you can do that. Go to our Facebook and check out our previous posts. We're always streaming live our services, and you can check out the different messages there. And there's a lot of good stuff about putting God first and making him the cornerstone of your life. But we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few different ways, more along the lines of bad priorities, consequences, things like that, just different things to kind of help facilitate more of a discussion regarding this awesome topic that everyone should be aware of. So, Ezra, I'm going to turn it over to you first.
Yeah. So I'm under the impression that priorities, if you have them, give you a insight and a kind of a direction in your life. So basically what I mean by that is like if you set a priority, like I'm going to be the best friend, best husband, best fill in the blank that I can be, and make that to be your priority. You're more apt to do those things. So we've all been through college. We've all been through, us three, when I say us, we've all been in situations. Now I'm talking to the whole gamut of our listeners and us. We've been in situations where we don't necessarily set priorities. We just kind of go by the seat of our pants, and that's awesome. That's fun. I've done that before, but also, I don't know about you, but for me, it kind of gets in the way of actually doing priorities. So, for instance, we in my house, we have this rule that we give 100% each. Danielle and I give 100% to each other, to our family. If one of us is not giving 100% to each other and to our family, one of us has skewed priorities, and it becomes very selfish. So, for instance, it's very easy for me to, when I go home, to throw up my feet. I have a big comfy recliner, to throw up my feet and sit on my phone for hours when I get home. That's the easy thing to do when I don't have priorities set in my life. But when I do, there's other things that I could be helping out in the house with. So if I go home and I have my priorities set to where I am an advocate for my child, an advocate for my wife, it sets me up to be a better person. It sets me up to be somebody that I feel like needs to be present in my family's life. So, for instance, or for a lack of a better term, I'm trying to have good priorities versus bad priorities. And I feel like if bad priorities are in your life, then you get your theology is skewed a little bit when you don't have goals set in mind and priorities to be to have there. So
let's talk about that for a second. There's definitely a correlation between things that go wrong and not having your priorities straight. And I mean, you could scroll through a lot of different people's Facebook pages and see when people have their priorities a little out of whack. Not that you should be running around judging people or being the moral police by any means, but just take it as an example and try and encourage them to set priorities. It never fails whenever you hear someone who's talking about being stuck in depression, despair, stuff like that. And they're, you ask them, well, have you been reading your word? Have you been, actually studying your Bible and having that intimate, close time with God where he has a way of speaking to you through his word. And, they're like, no, I
Right.
don't. Well, there's a reason why you're not feeling super great. And I myself have done
Prayer
this.
as well.
Prayer
Sure.
too.
Well, it goes in all gamuts, really. I mean, if you go and look at physical health, and there's a lot of our congregation that's going through either some kind of diet, whether it be keto, whether it be ideal or something like that.
Achieve,
whatever it might be. And if you don't have those priorities, then I'm when I say that, I'm like calling the kettle black, because I had a conversation the other day and about working out. I used to work out all the time and be in the gym and everything else, and that priority has gone by the wayside, and I've suffered because of that.
how have you suffered? What are the consequences of
The
not
consequences for that is gaining about 100 pounds and not.
Heyo.
I know, right? So I haven't hit the gym in like over a year, so I need to get back. But anyway, I mean that's a prime example, and not necessarily just one aspect of your life. It's all gambits of your life, from spiritual life to physical to family life to anything. And if you have a skewed priority, kind of messes with things, and you're not really focused in on what God has intended you, especially when it comes to digging into the Word. Just like you said, I mean, if you're saying that you don't have the biblical knowledge, or you're suffering, or what have you, whatever's going on in your life, the question
dry spiritually.
yeah, dry spiritually. I mean, the question is arised when somebody asks you, have you been digging into the Word? And the thing about it is, let's be honest, no. You know what I mean? Like,
God didn't move, we did, right?
Right. And God stays the same no matter what. So I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, we have been making sure that our days are prioritized with different things other than God, other than getting into the Scripture.
And we all know better, and even beyond a biblical standpoint, eating better, not going to the gym, that kind of stuff, not getting. We all know better, but why don't we do that? Why don't we pay attention to that? We go to the doctor. The doctor says, "Hey, you're borderline diabetic. You should probably take it easy." And what do? We go home and we're like, "I feel miserable. I'm going to eat this box of
pizza.
Twinkie." So, Mark, why do we do that? Why as humans do we do that? What is this thing that's broken inside of us that says, even though I know what I should do, I shouldn't, or I'm not going to do it?
I'll tell you one thing that, just asking that question on the spot, I just had this thought that from what I've been reading and hearing, it seems that a lot of any kind of suffering in this world, or any kind of shortcoming, is due to the fact that it starts at their view of their own self-worth. If they don't have a high view of themselves, it makes it that much harder to want to improve. A lot of our society is built on, focused on, the me, when take selfies or post things on Facebook, Instagram, and everything. A lot of it is about us. And I've had to take, a conscious step to make the decision, like, things I post, is it going to be about me, or, through my family, or even through the church? Is it going to be about me? And you have to take a really close look at that. Or is it going to be about the thing that you're doing for others? Or is it going to be for God? Is it going to ultimately benefit others? And I think, when it comes to like the weight loss and setting goals and everything, and Joe's like spoken on this a lot, and he's read a book on, finding your why. And I think if the why is me, it makes it almost like, well, if you let yourself down, it's like you don't have that high esteem on yourself. It makes it so hard to get past that. You're like, okay, well, if this is just about me and I don't reach that goal, then it's only going to hurt me. Yep. But that's the wrong mindset. Why am I doing this? It's because we want to stay healthy, because not only there's a direct correlation between our physical health and our mental health, which would directly correlate to spiritual health as well. But we live longer as a result of eating healthy, living healthy, exercising and everything, so that the people around us, if we're being a good influence in their lives, we can be around longer. That's quite simple to understand. And also, when you're in that place where you can be a benefit for others, and you see that the goal is no longer on, me or myself, and that the focus is on, look at these people around me, not in a narcissistic way that, they need you or anything. It's more of just like, and I know a lot of people can fall into that trap, but it's more like, look, anything we do in life is going to have a consequence that affects others. And once we can realize that, we can set our goals, and therefore we can build upon that, our priorities. Is it going to be, am I going to, wake up and, get dressed and make myself ready for the day just for myself, or is it going to be because I want to make a difference in someone else's life today? Am I going to present myself in a way that is, approachable or caring, kind of anything like? It all starts with what you do when you wake up in the morning. You make that mental decision to do things for others, and I think that's where we kind of miss the mark, which is interesting because that's the direct translate. That's what sin is literally missing the mark.
Yeah,
and I think that and which leads to death. And I think a lot of people miss that fact. Like, a lot of people think that sin is just simply doing something that is going to harm someone or yourself. No. I mean, it can lead to that.
Or some broken rule or something.
Missing the mark is literally, we have choices every single day to make. If I decide to, blow through a red stoplight, it's breaking the law and everything, but also it's missing the mark. It can lead to someone else getting hurt, or it's just taking responsibility for the things that we do and the actions that we do. And I think once we take responsibility and take hold of our lives, then we have a lot better chance of achieving our goals and setting our priorities straight. So,
and I think that as a human being, we're very prideful, and it's hard to move past a mentality where you wake up and you say something like, what's going to happen to me today? What am I going to do today? Instead of changing your mindset to say, like, what am I going to do for other people today? How can I be of service to other people today? And that's what God wants. And you're not always going to be strong enough to be able to be there for everybody, but you need to make sure that you are constantly growing and getting better. And it's, I'm not going to get into like a big political discussion here, but it's like some of the problems with like the welfare system. You get people who get on the welfare system and they stay on the welfare system and they make no changes to better themselves, to grow, to change. And some people are in really bad situations, and I'm not talking about those people. But in the same token, we can treat God's grace as welfare and just abuse it instead of like changing ourselves to make people a priority, to make God a priority. Because God, wants us to first and foremost love him and then love your neighbor as yourself. Those are like the two greatest commandments, and everything else falls underneath those two. And really, if you wrap your mind around it and that's your mindset, like, you don't have the problems. I know for myself, whenever I've put to death all of the things that I want to accomplish, or all the things that I covet, all the things that I am working hard to achieve for myself, sometimes I get there, but it's a lot of hard work. The crazy thing about it is the times where I have put all that to death and said, God, use me for whatever, that's when God has brought me up to do all these different things. And it wasn't by my own work. It wasn't by my own, grueling, crawling on my knuckles through gravel kind of thing. It was God's plan to use that. And he has a plan for all of us in that same sense. If we could put ourselves off of it and make that a priority, that would work. But think on that for a second. We're going to take a quick break. Okay, we're back and we're talking about priorities and putting God first and consequences of our actions, things like that. Kind of the aftermath, if you will, of what the current sermon series is here at Valley Mills Christian Church. Mark, I know you had some stuff to share if you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, along the same lines of setting priorities, and I guess it has a lot to do with setting goals as well. And I'm just going to talk about my college experiences and how priorities and setting goals has played a major role in my time being there. So I was a student. I went to Milligan, and I was also an athlete. I was in track and field, and also I volunteered a lot with serving on the worship team for the chapel and vesper services. And during a semester, I also worked part-time at a church, leading worship there for the youth. And you guys can kind of see that priorities and everything along those lines had an important part in my life, because I didn't have time for everything to devote everything to that. And it's you can think of it almost like a compromise, but in terms of which, and this is directly when priorities come in, which thing is most important. I'm first of all, and I'm not sure my track coaches would, or at least not all of them would fully agree with this, but yes, academics, I'm in college. Academics is number one. And so I would have to make sure that, I'm getting all my work done, all my homework done, and studying, and, getting, good grades and everything. It was almost to a point where it's like, with athletics and with the social life, hanging out with friends and the work and everything, you almost got to, I came up a ton of times with like, all right, am I going to spend 4 hours studying this subject and making a 93%? Or am I going to take, an hour and get like a 90 and be satisfied with that? To me, it's almost like you have to make those compromises and decisions. What's going to take the most out of me, and where can I put more of myself into something else? And being I help coach track and field. I'm the high jump coach at Mooresville High School now. And being on the other end and now being on this side of track and field, I can see now more clearly that the things that I was told when I was an athlete, it's like, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. That's so true, because even in my experience, I can impart all the wisdom and everything that I know to these kids, and they're not going to get anywhere unless they take it seriously and unless they make it a priority in their life. If you're doing track and field and you want to make it a priority in your life, you're going to set goals. You're going to do what's asked of you to the best of your ability. And like I said, just being a human, being in my experience, I know you're going to have to compromise on some things, right? So even at our workout the other day, it was like, all right, we're going to do these, arches or back bends. And if you've ever tried one of those, doing those, it's hard at the beginning. And I know it was the first time a lot of these people were doing it. And I was like, all right, we're doing it. A lot of people were great at it. People who had, been in gymnastics or whatever had a lot easier time of doing that. But people who haven't, they were struggling hard. I'm like, all right, if you can't do an arch, this well, then at least do it halfway to where you can sustain it and keep doing better. I told him, you got to wake up in the morning and do these. You got to, before you go to bed, do these. And you can actually do this with just transfer these ideas to like prayer and reading the Bible. Before you go to bed, read the Bible, pray. When you wake up, read the Bible, pray. And that's the whole thing that we're trying to get to, is priority setting ultimately leads to, is Christ the center of our lives? Is Christ the, our foundation, our cornerstone? And if he is, he's going to be in our thoughts first and foremost, in anything, in our actions and what we're thinking, what we do, how we speak to people. Are we leading with grace, or are we just trying to tear people down? That's where the priorities comes in. And I think just a good measure of, I guess, a litmus test of if Christ is in our focus, that, are we imitating him in our everyday lives? Just like I said before, is it being reflected in the words that we say? Is it being reflected in the quality of our work? Because God as asked the best of us in everything.
How about the things that we post?
Yes, yeah, the things that we post. And honestly, I struggled with that back then. And I know that we are passionate about things, but guess what? Everybody's passionate about what they believe is the truth. Mm-hmm. And so how do you reach people? Reaching people isn't just by yelling at them. And even in arguments, even in debate teams, right? So we have that, they have those in school. It's whoever has the best argument for their debate, and arguments and debates are kind of closely correlated, but they're not exactly the same thing. But I heard something very interesting. The goal of winning an argument or debate of someone is not to totally demolish them and tear them down. It's to only do the minimal amount possible to win, and then simply to pin them and then help them back up. You know, a lot of us kind of forget the whole helping them back up part. You know, if we win an argument, we're all self-satisfied and we're like, yeah, I'm better than you, you know, and we kind of keep them down. No, that's not the goal. The goal is to try to help them grow as someone in your life previously has helped you grow as a person. So even in theological arguments, or even, just anything that goes on, whether it's political or social or whatever, make sure it's done in love. And by doing those things, that is a definite marker that you are keeping Christ at the center of whatever you do. So.
Absolutely. And I think there is kind of an order of operations, if you will, to priorities, just kind of like what you were talking about. You have to do a certain amount of training before you can get to certain physical feats and things like that. And I want to bring up kind of my son as an example. He's a senior this year, and he just recently this year discovered how much he really likes construction trade. He's been in band. He's been in a lot of like smart academic classes, and he thought maybe he was going to do like some engineering type stuff, but his grades really weren't there, not for a lack of intelligence, but because he just didn't turn stuff in. He didn't really care about that stuff. He didn't take notes. He didn't do all this other stuff. And he recently, fell in love with the construction trade and started doing that. Well, we're looking at his grades, and his econ grade was like a 62%. And it's like, okay, buddy, here's the thing. If you fail and you don't graduate, you might still be able to get a construction trade, but they're going to look at that and be like, oh, you didn't even finish high school. Like, it reflects against his work ethic and his ability to get things done and to put himself in there. And I said, there are consequences to this. There are consequences to what you are prioritizing.
A long-term consequences.
Absolutely. And his construction trade grade was great because he cared about it and he loved it. And if we only dump our energy into the things that we care about or are fun, then unfortunately it's going to catch up in a bad way. Yep. And so in this particular case, we had to have a meeting with a teacher, and he's starting to turn a lot of that around. And he understands. I'm like, look, you've got like 3 months left to get this turned around, because you will graduate high school, or you're going to get a pounding. I'm just kidding. No,
figuratively.
He's a good kid. He's a good kid, and he now knows that this is a big priority for him for these next few months. And I said, I'm not going to necessarily ground you from things. You're 18 years old. You need to start being able to do this for yourself, but maybe you need to put yourself off of video games for a month or two until you get your grades turned around. And he, was good with that idea. And this is something that we need to realize. When we go to the doctor and they say, you're pre-diabetic, and you're like, okay, I need to make a life change here. Instead of running home feeling miserable and eating horrible, you could say, okay, this is my reason. This is why I'm changing. This is why I'm starting. There's consequences to bad priorities. And maybe you don't really realize that some of the negative things that are happening in your life are as a result of how you have prioritized things. I'd like to talk for an example as well. I always go to social media just because it's such a hot, prevalent thing, and it's made everybody, a star in their own universe kind of thing. But there's a person that I know who doesn't, go to this church or anything. It's not anybody that you would be able to pinpoint necessarily, because unfortunately there's a lot of people that do this. But this person posts a lot of things on Facebook because they're very political, and this is a huge priority for them because I guess they feel that the more political memes and Democrat bashing that they can post on there, the more friends they're going to win or something. I don't know. Like I don't really know what the mentality is, but I feel like they do this expecting some kind of result. And it's funny that you should mention like debate team, because in the same principle, like the debate team doesn't win, when they've turned the other person's opinion around. That's not how debate team works. Mm-hmm. Debate team, you're scored based on different points for your argument, things like that. But the end result of a debate team challenge isn't to get the other team to change their mind. It's not. And in the same token, when you're on Facebook or when you're in public and you're really debating hardcore religion or politics or something, and you're just like spitting and arguing and all this stuff, it's like no one has ever changed because of that. Yeah. No one has ever said, you know what, you're right. I completely repent. How do I fix it? Like no one has ever said this. So just keep that in mind. If this is a huge priority for you, if you feel like God has called you to tear down the Democrats.
Or tear down somebody in general.
Right. Yeah. So this person posts, and I'm going to say this guy's name wrong because I'm not a sports guy. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Colin Kaepernick. Okay. So they post this guy. I just know he's got the big afro and there's all this controversy about, kneeling during the national anthem and stuff. And I don't like people that are disrespectful. So I'm not like a fan. I'm not trying to defend this guy by any way, shape, or form. So he's kneeling during the national anthem because he's protesting the treatment of African American people in the country, and there's been a lot of injustice in that, and I'm not, downplaying that by any way, shape, or form. But this post in particular that I'm talking about, this person put, they said, how hypocritical of this guy to do this when, he converted to being a Muslim, and there's Muslims in the world that own black slaves right now, and, how is he doing this? And I said, as a Christian person posting this nasty, negative comment, he could turn around and say, well, are you affiliated, with Westboro Baptist Church? You're a Christian. They profess to be Christian. So in the same token, if you're going to judge me like that, I could judge you like that. And that's it right there. Like you get these people who care so much about it and have made this a huge priority to get on their Facebook and like post all these different things. And it's still negative. It's still tearing people down, and it's still saying bad things against people that God loves. God loves those people just as much as he loves you, and they need Jesus just as much as we do, as much as you do. And what does it benefit? So I want to kind of challenge my take on this is like, make it a priority to be positive. And I'm not trying to like get into like this pseudo, Buddhists be positive and everything will be great. But you know what? Like God is pretty adamantly against tearing people down, even those that are wrong. We are not meant to be the moral police. We're meant to be a shining light that is reflecting his glory. If he is our priority, if he is our number one, and everything that we are doing is for him, then it's going to come out like that. And I think you really have to check and see what kind of fruit you're bearing out of the things that you're doing, the things that are a priority to you, whether it's your soapbox that you care so much about, or even your family. If you look at your family and your kids have bad grades, like I had to take a reflecting look at myself and say, have I been teaching my son how to make good priorities? And instead of beating myself up, instead of like letting it ruin my day, I said, let's set up a meeting, let's have a talk, and I'm going to make a conscientious effort, a priority for myself, to maintain a good dialogue with him to make sure his grades are doing well, and he understands the consequences of his priorities.
I think back, not to take two steps back, I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a roll. But social media thing, I believe that like the invention of social media way back when MySpace was created. I mean, it gave gives everybody a platform to be correct. You know what I mean? In the right mind, this is my profile. This is my status. This is me. So whatever I want to put, no matter what content, no matter if my opinion is false or factually false or factually true, it's my opinion. Nobody else can do that. And I think that's honestly why I stay off of. I'll post good things. I'll share good things on Facebook, but as far as like debates and stuff like that, I very, very rarely get into them, just because I honestly don't think that that's a platform to debate, to discuss, because any good discussion, any good debate happens face to face, where you can see the emotion, you can see where they're coming from. And where on text message, on Facebook message, on a tweet or what have you, anything on social media, you can't see the emotion, the thought process behind it. The wheels spinning in that person's head when they post that. They could be posting out of anger. They could be posting out of their different circumstances. And that's one of the reasons why social media is awesome, but that's one of the heels of social media is it just can be turned into so much of, that's my opinion, Mark, you stay away, or hey, you stay away from my opinion. And prime example, one of my own family members, I don't know if she's listening. I didn't get into this because she made a flippant comment on flippant comment on childbearing, and how she thought that it was a downright outrageous thing for a parent to give their kid a tablet to kind of occupy their time. And it was a whole like plethora of things of comments and stuff like that. But I have my own opinions on that. But basically, I was reading through the comments, and my cousin literally said, well, it's my opinion, so you guys just bug off. And I was like, that's no way to win an argument. That's no way to access that. Like that's no way to do that. But my point is, when you go on social media, like Mark, like Joe said, make sure you're giving your best foot forward. Because a lot of times when we post a political or a very lopsided, opinionated post on social media, it's putting us at the top of the level. It's putting us at the top of the pedestal. And when we get defensive and when we get all this bent out of shape because somebody doesn't agree with us, it kind of paints a dirty picture on what needs to happen. And I mean, I also can kind of testify when you talk about Solomon and priorities in young kids and young lives. A lot of them don't have the motivation. Not saying that Solomon doesn't, but
sure.
I know a
lot of adults that don't even.
Right, and that's the thing. I was just, when you were telling that about Solomon, it made me think about all the years that I've done student ministry. Even though I'm just scratching the surface on student ministry, every single year there seems to be a student that like literally goes and like waits to the last 3 months to get their grades and their GPA out because they're finally kicking in. I mean, there was a period of time where an aha moment in college that I had. I piddled around, procrastinated. I literally would take a nap over studying in college. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad. If you're listening to this, but my point is, be an advocate for those people. If you're posting negative stuff on social media, if you are downright just nagging somebody because they won't get off the couch, try encouraging them. And it's not going to happen overnight for the people that are like that don't have priorities, that don't have motivation. It's not going to take one time going, hey, you need to get up off your couch. We need to talk about your grades. We need to do this. We need to do that. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen. And it's that relationship of encouraging and pushing, and that's what's going to motivate them. So that's my 2
Mark,
cents.
you got any closing thoughts there?
Yeah, just stay positive, and just as to reiterate what has been said, just be a light in people's lives, and that's what we're called to do. We're called to be the salt and the light. And I just think if we're just dumping a bunch of, for like a better term, like crap on people, how is that going to win someone to Christ? How is that going to open a door for the Spirit to move in that person's life? Because they're going to be shut off against that. You know, if that's all you're doing, and you know, there's this, the juxtaposition of truth and grace. Yes, we should remain, firm on truth and on our stance in truth, to our best understanding, and realize that we are fallible human beings, and sometimes those truths can be skewed. But especially when it comes to the Bible is truth. It's God's word. And I mean, if we, put all of our efforts into learning the Bible better and learning it more, the more we see that Jesus was a godly man of grace and mercy. There were times where he got heated and where he got righteously angry, but more times than not, you see this picture of Jesus as the bearer of that mercy and grace. And ultimately, you should have this picture of Jesus hanging on the cross, and have him, looking down at you and saying, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And so if we have that picture in our heads, when we approach someone who has either wronged us or spited us or is doing things that we don't agree with, Jesus forgave them just as he has forgiven you. And if we can do that and bring that to the world, then I think that the world has so much to gain from that kind of approach. So,
and one of my favorite stories of Jesus is when he was stopping the people from stoning the prostitute, and he bends down to draw on the sand, and he's like, whichever of you is without sin, you can throw the first stone. And they all drop one by one, like the older people first because they get it, and then like the younger people. And it's such an amazing, that's how you do it. You do it with action. You don't do it with words. And I wanted to close. We had the privilege of going to Ozark Christian College for a teaching conference with our senior minister, Bob Belts, who you'll see next week here on the podcast, sitting in this seat right here instead of me. But we went to this awesome seminar service deal. It was Shane Moyers, and Shane is actually spelled Shan, like S-H-A-N for some reason, and he made a little joke about it. But his name is Shane Moyers, and he's the executive minister at Rocky Mountain Christian Church in Colorado. And he told this really cool story of how these two ladies came into the church, and they had, a child with them, and, they fell in love with the church, got involved, he got to know them better and everything. And then it was, come to find out that these two ladies were married to each other. And, you had a lot of people in the church who I'm sure, and you've probably heard these, similar stories. A lot of people in the church, what are we going to do? What's going to happen? What do we do with these ladies? And he's like, I'm just going to love them. I'm going to keep loving them, and I'm going to keep being friends with them, because that's what we do. That's what God wants us to do. When we put God first, he directs us. It's not about what we want or feel or who we think we need to correct. And so by setting that example and continuing to love them and stuff like that, he ends up saying the story that nobody judged them, nobody said anything, and then eventually they started hearing the word and kind of calling into question how they were living their life, because there was a lot of things in the Bible that, that says things about those lifestyles. And long story short, they end up leaving the church because they couldn't rectify it in their head or whatever it is. They couldn't get on board with what, Scripture was saying, and the church wasn't compromising, but they loved without compromise, and they loved without judgment as well. And so this whole sermon series, putting God first, when you make him your biggest priority, when you make him the first thing when you go to open your mouth and you have the Holy Spirit there to tell you what to say, as opposed to the opinion you think you should share. It just, you can't go wrong. You are competing against someone who's perfect, who is the creator of everything, who is the embodiment of love, against you and your measly opinion and the 2 cents that you have over the course of the life that you've lived, which, let's be honest, is skewed. So that's your takeaway from this. Hopefully, I know we ran a little bit along, but it's because we've been gone for a month, so we had a little extra to talk about.
And we miss you.
And we miss you. But put God first. Be positive. Find ways to encourage people. Don't tear down the people that God loves just because you disagree with them. You are ruining your witness. There's consequences to your actions. Look at them. Look at your life and the things that are going wrong. Is it because your priorities are out of whack? Is it because God isn't first? We'll be praying for you, and we hope you're praying for us, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.